is out of our control. That has come to an end, thankfully, but we went almost 6 months without a full-time clerical staff person. That had a devastating effect. You know, people who apply for building permits are paying significant fees for those permits, and we have to get that work done. What happens is, and we're left with no choice, is that we have to, and had to, more so than ever this time, suspend a lot of our zoning enforcement actions this year. And so I have a backlog, and we're going to start addressing that as soon as I get back from vacation, which starts in about half an hour. I would like to take a minute to publicly thank my staff, especially through that crisis, for really stepping up to the plate, and also some of the other departments that pitched in, my town administrator for putting up with a couple of my mini meltdowns during that crisis. It was a tough, stressful time, and it was a challenge, but I think we're on the other side of that, and I'm thrilled and grateful for that. Essentially, that's where we're at. I think I would add just one more thing and mention one person in particular, and that's our local inspector, Jay Bollier, who is just truly a workhorse. I don't know how else to put it. He really, his dedication to the town, his work ethic is just unparalleled, and I think it deserves a strong mention, especially in a position where you're often the subject of high criticism. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Jay's a very dedicated employee.
Yeah, he really is, and I've worked with him now for the 9 years I've been here, and I'm really very impressed by his performance, and I don't think people say that enough.
How's the online permitting going?
Well, the online permitting is going. You know, we initiated that in 2009 with somewhat of a basic system, but then we advanced to more capabilities online, the ability to submit plans and to discuss back and forth through the system, through a chat feature within the system, the various goings-on. The biggest problem with the online permitting system is the lack of knowledge on the construction industry side of that. So our staff spends a lot of time teaching people how to register, how to apply for permits, how to upload documents.
Yeah. That will change, though. That will change.
Joe, you mentioned to me when we met prior that you may hold some informational workshops on that. Is that
absolutely still a goal of mine?
Good.
But when we had the situation like we had,
right, you were obviously put back because of that. But in the future, that's something that you may look towards doing.
I will definitely. I
think that'd be very helpful.
On the top of my agenda, absolutely. But you know, again, the focus has to be first on getting the permits issued in a timely fashion.
Right.
Whatever it takes to get that done, and everything else has to come second.
Who's that software vendor on that?
It's a company called Full Circle Technologies. They're out of Boston. They do us, they do Marshfield, they do Hingham, they do Franklin County. They have a lot of...
Sometimes those companies will be willing to do some training, you know, I mean...
Well, yeah, I think we could partner with them to do some training like David just mentioned.
Maybe a way to, I mean, even if it costs a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's certainly something worth looking into. The other thing, though, with the online permitting is that, and not necessarily to criticize our company, because all the companies are the same. They are technology companies. The building inspection field is a unique field. The building codes are constantly changing, and the staff at the various companies, no matter, and it doesn't matter which vendor you have, the staff at those companies don't understand building codes. So it's it's always a challenge to get them to, oftentimes we find the system's not adequate for a particular function. We have to get them to change or adjust. And, you know, so that's a constant challenge, and I think that will always be there.
Mhm.
But that's kind of a summary of where the online permitting.
Okay.
It's certainly a benefit. You know, we initially spent $30,000 for the system, and we spend about $5,500 to almost $6,000 a year in maintenance fees. It has, you know, certainly we would have needed more staff to
Yep.
continue doing the paper and pencil thing
Right.
that we do. And the other thing it's helped to do, and I see it will continue to do that, we'll be able to reduce the number of file cabinets, literally.
Sure, it's all cloud storage.
Yeah, and that becomes important as the town grows, and if, you know, there's a need for the department to grow, we also need a place to put staff.
Right.
So it's important to
Now,
get that.
are the inspectors using the handhelds for, to do the inspections with? Or?
Not yet, that's
That's the next step.
That's the next step.
Yeah, good. When do you think you'll be there, any idea? You get the cost of getting equipment.
It's a cost
It's a
issue. But I haven't really spent the time to look into that yet. I know it's on my list, but haven't got there yet.
Good.
Joe, could you talk about your budget request for this new position?
Yep, so, and that is the big issue with my budget. I've had some discussions with Anne Marie and Tom and others, and in the 9 years that I've been here, it's always been with zoning. When times are slow, we're able to keep on top of zoning complaints and all that goes along with that. But when building permit activity is high, that takes a back seat. So it's always an up and down.
Right. And we've never been proactive with respect to zoning. It's always been reactive.
Exactly. And so what I envision here is the creation of a full-time zoning enforcement agent, someone that would do the work that my inspectors or myself, that we do now. And with zoning enforcement, for example, unregistered cars, commercial vehicles, businesses run out of houses, illegal apartments. Ultimately, you know, we enforce by first sending letters telling people to stop, and then if they don't, it comes into a court situation, whether that be criminal or civil. But you don't know which ones are going to go that way. So you have to treat everyone as if it is. So it's a matter of keeping very detailed, accurate records, reports, much like the police would do on any criminal investigation. So it takes a certain level of expertise and dedication and to achieve that properly. And if you don't do that, ultimately we're going to fail in our efforts to maintain some level of property value protection. But we do envision that this position would be a lesser classification than a building inspector position. So the hope would be that it would take some of the burden off of the building inspectors, and I think not right now, but in the future, if there needs to be a reduction in staff, it could be a reduction in the building inspector position, which is a higher level. So that's my thinking on the creation of this position. I think it's, in the end, it's a prudent strategy.
Plus, it's not a novel idea. I know Randolph has a full-time zoning enforcement.
Quincy created one
Yeah.
recently.
You know what other towns do too? Does Canton and...
It would allow you to be more efficient then, you know,
Oh, definitely,
in how you're doing
That's the
business
goal,
right
yes.
now, okay?
More efficient and proactive on
And
something.
proactive on stuff,
Yeah.
okay.
And I like the way you described in your letter, Joe, that it's quality of life aspect of zoning, because occasionally we do get a complaint that there's unregistered cars in somebody's yard, and that's,
Oh,
you know,
that's
that's an
very-
eyesore in a neighborhood, and
Very
that
common.
affects
Yeah.
property values.
It sure
people's-
does.
comfort level with,
Agreed.
Right.
with their quality of life
And
and
it
with
also
their
tends to be linked to
neighborhood.
crime in neighborhoods, too.
Yes.
So it's,
Yep. And it can be multiple cars on a particular property. It can be repeat issues. So it is important. It is a key tool in protecting property values within the town. And then
So
other
that's the
than-
real difference between your contingent and non-contingent budget.
That's correct.
It looks like your expenses were steady.
Yep. I
Yes.
anticipate that.
Yeah, they haven't changed.
And the other thing, you know, as David and I discussed several months ago, and there's a lot of opportunity, this new position, if it were passed, we are so reactive. There's so many things, so many avenues where we could be proactive, which will lead to a more efficient operation of the department down the road.
Good.
You know, I think if we can provide some training programs for contractors, for homeowners, I think that's, you know, that will improve our efficiency. I also think that there could be some collaborative effort between my department, some other departments, the Board of Selectmen, and some of the state legislatures. There's been a lot of talk lately about fixing some issues in our own zoning bylaw, but there's also some serious issues that need to be fixed at the state level in Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, to be specific, the Zoning Controlling Act. That was essentially written back in the 40s and 50s and somewhat updated in the 70s and not touched since.
Wow.
And we know so much more through all the court cases. Cities and towns, in Milton too, we spend so much time in court due to the ambiguities of the
the law.
of the law, and if we could maybe work on some of that, it's just an investment in the future.
One other quick question on your budget, Joe. I suspect it's just a breaking up, but in FY16 on your miscellaneous line item, you had $8,800. That drops to $1,500 in FY17, but then you pick up some new items.
Yes.
Is that just a refinement?
Yes, it was, all of those
Mileage,
items
IT expenses
were
lumped into miss?
lumped into that because there was
Yeah.
no specific account number for them,
Okay.
as there still isn't, but we just broke them out so it was
Gotcha.
clear. That question came up at the warrant committee last year.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. All right, I'll move to approve and forward to the warrant committee the FY 2017 budget for the Inspectional Services Department in the amount of $478,550 for a contingent budget and $428,229 for a non-contingent budget.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Enjoy your vacation.
Okay.
And thank you to Jay and the rest of your very good staff for all
Absolutely.
their efforts.
Is Joe going to stay for the,
Sure, for your
Okay.
discussion?
Yeah.
Sure.
just a discussion on the condition of 0 Central Ave and 131 Elliott? And this is just a short discussion on it. Just give a little bit of background.
Are we taking number 10 and 11 together?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, may as well. But so first on 10, at our last core team staff meeting, I suggested that it had been a long time since we've looked at the condition of the Henry building, and it's still standing. It may be standing for a while. We don't know exactly how much longer, through no fault of anybody's at this point. But you know, it is a concern because you know, we just want to know what the condition is. So I did suggest that maybe Joe see if we could take a look at the building, see if it's deteriorated any more than the last time that we saw it, and if so, how bad. So there was some back and forth between the Conleys and the town, but the Conleys have agreed to allow us to come in and inspect the building with a representative from their
The structural engineer.
Structural engineer, yeah, which I think is perfectly reasonable. But if you want to expand on that at all, Joe.
No, only that, I had initially set that up, but then there was some concern that we do it with the structural engineer, and I absolutely welcome that. I think it's a good thing.
Yep.
I'll be happy to help coordinate that. Since the board delegated me to handle the Henry situation, I'm happy to coordinate that. I've had a lot of communications with Mr. Connolly, and they're very willing to work with us and have been very cooperative throughout the process, so I'd be happy to help coordinate anything.
And like I said, I think that's a reasonable request from, on the Conley side, that, and I think it's helpful to, for both parties to agree on what the condition is. Hopefully that's what will occur. So, I don't know if there's anything else to say about that. But
No, okay, so I'll make a motion to extend the deadline for the concurrent demolition of the town-owned property at 0 Central Avenue and the Carrick Realty Trust property at 131 Elliott Street from October 20th, 2015 to November 24th, 2015.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded,
And we may not be meeting that night. I think we should change it
Yeah.
to the 23rd.
No, so
but
could
well, you
we,
could leave it the 24th and meet the 23rd.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll know if you have, so, that's fine. And we are really just kind of waiting to see what happens with the DEP, on that
we
property.
are, and the town is also working on our own demolition permit. The Conleys do have a demolition permit. We do not, but we are working with the Conservation Commission on that.
Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thanks, Joe.
Okay,
you, Joe.
thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, item 12 on the agenda is discussion and approval of composition of airplane noise advisory committee. And are we going to defer this?
I'd like to move that we appoint Matthew Crowley of Lawndale Road to the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee.
Okay,
Okay, and I'll second that.
that's fine. Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I spoke with Matt. He's got, I think, a good background for this committee. He
He
has a lot of
really
expertise
does,
in the area
yeah,
of noise.
sound and noise, yes.
study, I think, would be a good thing to have
It'd
his
be a great
input
addition
on.
to this committee. I think that, our meeting the other night went, I thought, very well. I think it was very positive, and I think that we're looking for a collaborative effort, and I think that he'd be a fabulous addition to help us move forward.
Yep, he certainly sounds well qualified for it, so I agree.
And we've said we may have other changes that we're looking at, but for purposes of tonight, I think this is
That's
one that we want to put forward tonight. And obviously, the Board of Health needs to weigh in, and if we vote it tonight, we need to have the Board of Health take a
As a
separate vote
joint
as well.
venture.
it's subject to the Board of Health approval, absolutely.
Yeah, so the motion is subject to approval by the Board of Health, right? Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item 13 is the acceptance of Curry College pilot payment.
Okay, I'll move to accept a payment in lieu of taxes from Curry College in the amount of $82,238 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Other than thank you, Curry. All's in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Could you remind me when we get to future agenda items about pilot?
Sure.
Otherwise, I'll forget. I'm 65. Thoughts don't last long in the head. Okay, item 14 is approval of town reports FY17 budget. And this is a pretty simple one.
I'll move that we approve and forward to the Warrant Committee the FY17 budget for town reports in the amount of $6,300 for the contingent and non-contingent budgets.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item 15 is board and committee appointments. Logan Community Advisory Committee representative.
I'll move to reappoint Cindy Christensen of 59 Collimore Street as the Milton representative to the Logan Community Advisory Committee to serve through October of 2016.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, come to that time. We're looking for the town administrator's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the Board of Selectmen and the residents of the town for allowing me to have the training, safety training program last Friday at Town Hall. I know,
I give the
Tom, you were
kickoff speech, yes.
there in the beginning. I wished you were able to stay for the full-day training program because it was phenomenal. Employees today were still talking about this program. I want to thank Jack Richmond, Sergeant Jack Richmond. Richard Wells came over and had brief opening remarks as well. And then a company called Synergy Solutions partnered with Sergeant Richmond to conduct the exercise. And it was a real live exercise. We had guns, blanks obviously, but going off, and we had set up 4 training programs in 4 separate offices. And I can't say enough about how excited I am to see one of my personal goals come to fruition. And we are the second town hall to have conducted this type of training program, so I'm very excited about that. Next time I'll try to be number 1 on things, but number 2 this time. But you know, we broke in and did the training ceremony, and then training sessions, and then we came back and had some discussions, follow-up discussions. And as a result of the training, what I've asked departments to do is to go back to their offices with their employees and really talk about their action plan in their office and put protocols together. I know in a real-life situation that you're not going to follow this plan exactly to the letter T, but just to think about what kind of program you would put in place in your office. And then it also made us think about what kind of things we should have in the office, what kind of safety gear we should have. And so I can't just say enough about the program, and I really thank you for allowing me to do it. And we rolled it out. I think the library has conducted it, and my hope is to get it to the Council on Aging and DPW and Cemetery and the other off-site locations, because it's, hope to God you never have to really act it out, but it was telling, and the employees were amazing, and a couple of them had panic attacks, but we handled those well. But again, thank you so much.
Yeah. No, certainly Town Hall is not immune to to violence, just like in the the office world environment. It can be from a disgruntled boyfriend, disgruntled spouse. It can be from a dissatisfied customer. It can be from anybody.
Exactly.
And you just never ever know, and it happens with more and more frequency these days. Mm-hmm. As I said to the group too, it's once fear kicks in, just your mind kind of shuts down, and you don't think logically any longer. So you're acting instinctively. Mm-hmm. So you really want that training, everything you've learned to be instinctive.
Absolutely.
That's what you do. And it was evident that when that gun was fired, people's hands started shaking. They couldn't open the locks to the doors.
Yeah. We had 4 separate trainings, so we broke into 4 groups, and then, like I said, there were 4 offices that we used, so we did it 4 different times. And then they talked about, it's when in the situation, just if your door is locked, just unlocking that door, trying to get that key in. You don't realize now, but you just can't get the key in the lock. And so at the end, they broke us up and they said, okay, everybody go back to their offices. So we all walking back to our offices, and they shot the guns in the lobby, and people panicked. And one of my employees, we came up, she literally couldn't get, her hand was so shaking, and I can't get the door open, I can't get the door open. And this was a practice drill. So it was so telling just from that little bit. Yeah. So again, I'm telling you,
that's been one of your longtime goals, Anne Marie. So I think it was good that you had that and were able to put it together and organize it and conduct that. That was a good accomplishment.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I think that's great to be so proactive. I think that, just history recently at the high school with the way they reacted to a situation has shown us that when practicing these events, it's going to pay off.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks again. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. At this point, I don't have any report.
I don't either at this point.
I have just 2 quick things. One is I attended a dedication at the East Congregational Church of their little free library on Saturday at the invitation of Pastor Shelley. And this is it's not a big library. Think of a bird cage with size building with a lot of books in it, and it's a nationwide movement. There's something like 30,000 of these around the country. But this is the first one in Milton, so East Church led the way on this for us, but the Park Department is going to be taking a look at it and possibly having a little free library. And the idea is that you can just come, it's located on Granite Place.
Yeah, Cranefield.
Right near Cranefield, but it's on the church property on Granite Place, and it's you can just walk up to it, take a book, bring a book, and you can return it at any library, any little free library is the name for it, around the country, around the world. So that was a nice event. And I am, as we talked about on Thursday night, and David, you mentioned we had a good meeting with the Airplane Noise Committee. Cindy Christensen and I are working on a draft of the letter regarding her concerns about the Bland's study. So we've sent it back and forth a few times. The next step is to send it to Town Council, Karis North, to have her take a look at it, and then circulate it to the full board and the Airplane Committee members to review and hopefully collect some comments and finalize it fairly soon. That's all.
Great.
Citizen speak responses? I don't really have any, but.
I wanted to ask, not on tonight's, but 2 weeks ago, we had Lisa Leo come in and talk about Work Inc. on Walcott Road.
Yes.
Have we done any follow-up on that?
Yes, we have. Katie, the Assistant Town Administrator, went out and looked at the property and has had a few follow-up conversations with Ms. Leo. Yes.
Okay,
so we
great.
are working on that.
Good,
Good.
thank you.
Good. Future agenda items, the only thing I wanted to add was that we put on a future agenda the pilot program again to just kind of carry to the next step.
Yeah, and on
see
that,
how we're going to implement it.
I've actually spoken with both Jim Henderson and Bill Bennett separately, and we're going to be moving forward. And I'd like to catch up with Brian Cronin as well, but moving forward on looking at potentially holding a lunch with Curry, Milton Academy, and Milton Hospital as kind of the big three, and sitting down and articulating kind of what our thoughts are and kind of getting an assessment from them on what they're currently doing and putting a value on some of the things that they do, and looking at opportunities where we can work together for many years and create some sort of a program that can help the town.
Yep, that's good. But even over and above that, just in terms of ongoing, because it is a little bit of a complex program in terms of trying to measure the services you're giving compared to the cash you're giving, and
you have to put a dollar value on some of the programming and some of the assets, whether it be facilities.
And kind of analyzing that every year.
But it's really a true partnership, and it does, obviously, that can change yearly.
Sure. Yep.
But I think that, if we go in this, and I think that, I think everybody would want to, try to find a reasonable way to operate and show a lot of respect for each other, and try to find ways to ultimately, show them that we care about this, and that they also should be rewarded for what they do as well.
Right.
Sounds like Dave's willing to step up and volunteer
Absolutely.
to take on pilots, so I think
Yes, I think-
on a future agenda,
I'm
we
looking
delegate it
forward
to
to it,
David
actually.
Burns. What about the Yulin Rink, Tom? Is that something we can put on an agenda sometime soon for an update?
What I know about at this point, because I've been staying clear of, I'm not on that committee. Actually, David is. But one of the things they wanted to do was a physical needs assessment, and they did get a
Request
proposal.
for proposal. It will be on your
And we're meeting
October
tomorrow night.
26th. Yes.
Yeah.
And it will be on your
As a
October
committee.
26th
Okay, great.
agenda.
And we still have not seen anything from the state in terms of an RFQ or an RFQ.
No.
So we're still awaiting that. We had thought it would have been here by now, but so that may be another reach out to the state to see what's holding it up.
And OPEB, I know that's coming up on a future agenda.
Yes.
The treasurer and town council are working on the trust
Yeah,
agreement.
I talked to Jim McAuliffe yesterday, and he said that that had been done, the incorporation of
Okay, good.
mine and your changes into one document. I haven't seen it yet, but
In the budget, are we shooting for early November on the budget and the 5-year financial plan?
Yes, the
Yes.
5-year financial
November
forecast will
3rd,
be on
hopefully
the
on
November 3rd agenda, and I will be sending out the invitations to chairs of committees to let
Great.
them know that
And-
presentation will happen.
and the contingent, non-contingent budget shortly thereafter.
Shortly thereafter.
And both of those are going to need, well, especially that contingent, non-contingent, is going to roll out and most likely the results are going to be, because we're going to have a meeting at some point in time on what kind of an override number can we live with as selectmen, and are we willing to put on a, on a ballot? Because I suspect the initial number is going to be more than we're willing to, risk. And it's risk from 2 points. It's risk number one from the standpoint that if it's too big, you risk it not passing. And are you better getting something than nothing? So that's
But we'll have the financial forecast first.
financial forecast first, then the contingent, non-contingent
Okay.
budget.
That sounds good.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and then open a meeting of the trustees of Governor Stoughton Fund.
So moved.
And seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll call to order a meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Fund. And the first order of business is approval of Milton Community Food Pantry, Inc. request for a donation.
I'll make a motion to approve a request for the Milton Community Food Pantry Incorporated in the amount of $15,000 to support its dairy voucher program that allows client families to purchase milk and eggs at the Milton Food Mart.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. And is this consistent with donations that we made in
Yes.
the past?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. And we still have something in the high 300,000s in that?
You have, I would say about 325 now.
Okay, okay. So this will bring it down close to 300. But worthy cause. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
No executive session?